It was one of those quiet Friday evenings, when the city feels smaller than it actually is. I had just grabbed my usual caramel latte from the corner cafe, the one with the big front window I always like to sit by. But today, I didn't sit. I was tired from the week, and for some reason, I wanted to stretch my legs instead of hailing a cab. The air was crisp, the kind that makes your cheeks feel cold but awake. Street lights hummed faintly overhead, casting pools of yellow on the asphalt. The streets were practically empty. I felt safe, almost too safe. I sipped my latte, adjusting the strap of my bag on my shoulder as I walked. My earbuds were tucked in, but I hadn't even put on music. I liked the quiet, the way the world seemed to slow down at night. A few blocks in, I noticed a man crossing the street ahead of me. He had his hood up, hands buried in his pockets, walking slowly but deliberately. I assumed he was just another late-night walker, maybe heading somewhere, until he stopped directly in my path. "Hey, do you know what time it is?" he asked. His voice was calm, almost casual. I fumbled for my watch, my voice caught in my throat. Before I could answer, everything shifted. He lunged. My bag was yanked so fast I stumbled backward, spilling a little of my latte onto the sidewalk. "Hey, stop!" I screamed, my voice cracking, echoing faintly down the empty street. There was no one else. No cars. Just me and him. My heart was hammering. I kicked at him instinctively, trying to pull my bag free. The street felt unreal, too still, too silent. I could hear my own breathing, sharp and ragged, every step echoing as I scrambled backward. My hands were slippery, clinging to the strap as he tugged harder. My phone fell out of my coat pocket, skidding across the pavement. Something inside me snapped. I ran. I didn't know where I was going, just away from him, away from the dark hoodie and the glint of intent in his eyes. My heels slapped against the concrete as I bolted down the block, latte forgotten, bag clutched to my chest. My lungs burned, my legs felt like lead, and the sound of my own footsteps sounded like drums in the quiet night. I didn't look back until I saw the warm glow of a 24-hour convenience store ahead. I burst through the doors, nearly knocking over a display of chips, and pressed myself against the counter, gasping. My hands were shaking so violently, I couldn't even unlock my phone to call anyone. The cashier looked up, startled, and I could barely choke out, "Please, someone try to steal my bag." After a few minutes, I stepped outside cautiously. The man was gone. The street was empty again, as if he had never been there, like the city had swallowed him whole. My hands finally stopped trembling, and I clutched my bag tighter than ever, checking that nothing had been taken. The latte was ruined, but at that moment, it didn't matter. Even now, weeks later, I replay that block in my head. The way he stepped into my path, the way everything felt suddenly wrong, the silence that made my screams meaningless. It sticks. I always check my surroundings when I walk at night now. Every shadow makes my heart jump. Every approaching figure puts me on edge. I learned the hard way how quickly safety can vanish, how quickly a normal Friday night can turn into something terrifying. This happened about 6 months ago. It started the week I moved into my new apartment. I had spent the entire day lugging boxes, unpacking, and trying to make the small space feel like home. By the time evening rolled around, I was exhausted, my shoulders sore and my legs stiff. I decided to take my golden retriever, Daisy, for a short walk around the block, partly to stretch my legs, partly to get a feel for the neighborhood. The streets were quiet, lined with neat houses and dimly lit street lamps. I clipped Daisy's leash on, tugged on my jacket, and stepped out, inhaling the crisp night air. The sidewalks were empty, except for the occasional hum of a car passing by. Everything felt calm. As I walked down the first street, Daisy sniffed eagerly at a fire hydrant. I squatted beside her, scratching behind her ears, enjoying the quiet. That's when I noticed him, a man standing on the opposite side of the street. He waved. "Hey there," he called out. His voice was casual, friendly. I forced a small smile and waved back. "Hi," I said cautiously, glancing around to make sure there was no one else nearby. He walked closer, keeping his hands in his pockets. "That's a beautiful dog. What's her name?" I told him Daisy's name and kept my voice polite but brief. He asked where I worked, just making small talk, but something about the way he kept staring made my stomach tighten. I told him the area was nice for walks and tried to end the conversation. He smiled and said, "See you around then." I shrugged it off and continued my walk, thinking nothing more of it. But the next night, he was there again. Same street, same time, same friendly wave. I tried to ignore him, pretending Daisy was tugging me in a different direction. He followed us at a distance, calling out a friendly "good evening" once or twice. I chalked it up to coincidence. By the third night, he was waiting at the corner, hands still in his pockets, a slight smile on his face. He noticed me immediately, waved, and began walking toward me. My heart rate increased, and I found myself forcing Daisy to pull me past him faster than usual. When I reached my apartment building, I felt relief, but a small chill lingered. Over the next week, it became a pattern. Every night, at roughly the same time, he appeared, sometimes at a distance, sometimes much closer. He always found a way to catch my attention, smiling, waving, sometimes trying to strike up conversation about Daisy, or asking about my job, or mentioning a shop I frequent. It was subtle, but every time he spoke, I felt uneasy. The smile never reached his eyes. One evening, I took a different route, cutting through a quieter street. I thought maybe he wouldn't be there. Halfway through, I heard footsteps behind me, slow, steady, deliberate. My stomach flipped. I didn't dare turn around, but my instinct screamed that it was him. I picked up my pace, tugging Daisy closer. The steps behind me quickened just slightly, matching mine. When I finally reached the street with streetlights, he was gone. Then it escalated. One morning, I came back from a store to find a note slipped under my apartment door. I froze before picking it up. In neat, almost childlike handwriting, it said, "You didn't walk tonight. Everything okay?" My hand shook. I hadn't told him my street name. I hadn't talked about my routine. How'd he know? For the next 2 nights, I avoided going out alone. I kept Daisy inside, walked around only when my neighbor was visible, and double-checked the locks. The man didn't appear at first, but then, one night, I saw him standing on the sidewalk, looking directly at my window. My heart raced so fast I thought it would burst. I spent the entire night tossing and turning, imagining all the ways he could find out when I left, where I went, who I was alone with. By morning, I called my landlord, asked about surveillance cameras, and even debated whether to involve the police. It was terrifying, the sense of being watched, of my personal life known without my knowledge, and the creeping thought that he might not just be friendly. 2 weeks later, I moved. I packed my essentials, booked a storage unit, and quietly relocated to another neighborhood, never mentioning my new address. Daisy and I moved out at dawn, the streets silent as ever. I've never seen him again, but sometimes, when walking past a new neighbor's block, I can't help but glance at every shadow, every figure standing too still, every smile that feels just a little too wide. This happened to me last spring. It was just after 9 p.m., and I had finished a grueling day of classes. My backpack was heavy with textbooks, and I could feel the exhaustion in my shoulders as I walked across the campus parking lot. The night air was crisp, smelling faintly of wet grass and asphalt. The lot was almost empty, a few cars left scattered under the dull yellow glow of the streetlights. I remember letting out a small sigh of relief. Finally, I was heading home. My usual route, a 10-minute drive through quiet streets, no distractions. I reached the end of the path leading to my car, kicking at a loose pebble on the asphalt. That's when I saw it. My stomach dropped. All 4 doors of my car were wide open. Every single one. The front, the back, even the driver's side. I froze. My backpack was still in the front seat, untouched. The zipper was closed. My hand shook slightly as I fumbled for the car keys in my pocket. I was sure I'd locked it. My mind raced. Had someone broken in? Why leave the doors open? I crouched slightly to inspect, trying to hear anything, a footstep, a movement, a breath. Nothing. Then I noticed the footprints. Fresh, muddy footprints on the passenger side, leading toward the small patch of woods that bordered the parking lot. They were clear, the treads of sneakers pressed in the damp dirt, but there were none returning from the woods. My throat went dry. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I stepped back, trying to rationalize. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone had unlocked my car, rifled through it, then ran. But the footprints, those footprints didn't come back. I felt a flicker of panic. My phone was in my hand now, trembling slightly. I debated calling campus security, but the lot was quiet. Too quiet. I could hear the rustle of leaves from the edge of the woods, the occasional distant car, and my own rapid breathing. I tried to force myself to calm down. I fumbled for the car door lock. My fingers hesitated on the handle. Just a normal mistake, I told myself. Maybe I forgot. But even as I told myself that, my eyes scanned the tree line. Something about the way the shadows shifted, it didn't feel like wind. I stepped into the car cautiously, keeping my backpack close to me, sliding it onto my lap. I locked the doors and sat there for a moment, trying to steady my breathing. Then, I heard it, faint but deliberate, a crunching sound on the gravel near the edge of the lot. Slow, measured steps, coming closer. I froze, holding my breath, gripping the steering wheel. My fingers felt clammy, shaking. The steps stopped. Silence. Then, a faint snapping of a branch. God! I started the engine, careful to keep my movements minimal. My heart was pounding, so hard I thought anyone nearby could hear it. Slowly, I drove forward, pretending to be casual, watching the tree line through the rearview mirror. Nothing. The drive home was nerve-wracking. Every shadow on the side of the road made me flinch. I kept my windows up, doors locked, eyes darting. My street finally came into view, familiar, but tonight it felt alien. When I pulled into my driveway, I finally allowed myself to exhale. I bolted inside, double-checking the locks behind me. I didn't sleep well that night. My mind kept replaying the footprints, the eerie emptiness, the idea that someone had been near my car, maybe watching me, and had disappeared without a trace. The next morning, I reported the incident to campus security. They checked the lot and the surrounding woods. No one had been seen, no one had been caught on cameras. They said maybe someone was just messing with cars, but something in their tone suggested they'd seen stranger things and a few open doors. I never went back to that parking lot at night. And to this day, when I park late or leave my car, I triple-check the doors. The thought that someone could have been there, close enough to touch my car, maybe even see me, but vanished, it still makes my skin crawl.